All right, so officially, everybody, welcome to our first in this series of AI webinars. As I have told you in the newsletter and other places, Kathleen Perley sold her agency, Decode, in 2023. Is still there in the holding company, but has also been tapped by Rice University to teach AI in their MBA program. She's been a part of one of our peer groups, our live peer groups, for quite a while, and has always been a go-to for those folks around technology and agencies. And so as AI becomes more and more of a prevalent topic for all of us, I and Danielle decided that it would make sense to ask her to share with us some of the things that she's sharing in the MBA program. Kathleen, also, for those of you who are members, you know that we offer the digital summit where you can send your digital people for 2 days of learning, peer learning. That's capped at 50 people, by the way. And in the last member only communication I sent out, I sent you a link of where you can add your folks to that. Kathleen is going to facilitate that meeting. I'm going to be there to make sure everybody stays fed and watered, but she'll be the one sort of driving the topics and conversations. So we'll have her expertise there. She did it with me last year and got rave reviews. So with all of that, Kathleen, if you want to add anything to the introduction or just take over, I'm gonna.
No, I'm very excited to be here and really think that this is a huge opportunity. I know being in your shoes in the past, right? Last year and a half have been maybe not the easiest years for all of us in terms of getting squeezed from clients or budgets getting cut. And I really do think our ability to integrate AI into our agencies will really help us be able to create efficiencies and some cost savings to help us be more competitive in the market. So super excited to be here to share this with you guys. And as many of you guys know, this is a personal passion of mine as well. And so, at the Digital Summit, we'll be talking about everything from kind of web dev, UX, UI to paid digital media. But I obviously will be bringing in a lot of AI things, and we'll be nerding out over dinners and drinks and things of that nature as well. So really excited to be here. We've got an action-packed session. So we'll be talking about who should be leading the charge of AI within your agency, what you should be including in some of your policies, how we need to update our scopes and MSAs to set us up for success. How do we really identify the best use cases? A lot of you guys have probably tried some AI tools and leveraged them, and even myself included, right? There are certain things that they're good at, and certain things they really aren't. And so really figuring out where is the best use and where do we start implementing those. The next piece is really focused on change management and how do we get our employees on board. Now, as part of Unlock, we're about 350 employees, right? Change is sometimes scary for some individuals, especially if they feel like it's potentially jeopardizing their careers. And so really getting change management is such a crucial part of the success, and really kind of ties into kind of the selection of who should be leading the charge. And then last but not least is how do we set benchmarks to ensure that we're being successful with AI? One of the things that I feel really fortunate about is having really leadership in a private equity board now where I'm actually having to prove out what we're doing as an organization from an AI perspective and really making sure that we can measure that success. So, as we talk about investments in this technology and in people, that we're really being able to ensure that we're getting our return on that. So we'll start with who should be leading that charge. And it'll be interesting to see from you guys, and we might do a kind of, oh shoot, there we go. If you guys can still see my screen. Would love to see a raise of hands if you think it should be somebody like your CTO or your head of IT or somebody that is very, very technical from a developer or an engineer. A raise of hands within Slack if you think that is kind of where that route should go. So not too many,
We're seeing your Gmail, FYI, Kathleen.
Oh, weird. Okay, let me stop and share.
So we can help you if you'd like us to answer some emails for you.
That'd be great. Did you see how many I have?
I can't even look without twitching.
Without twitching. Can you now see, where did it go? Okay, hold on, let's see. You now see the presentation again.
Yep, we do.
Perfect. So oftentimes I get asked this question, should it be a CTO? Should it be a head of IT? Should it be a head of engineering? And my answer is absolutely not. The person that you should be really looking to find is this unicorn. And why I really think the first and foremost that we should be looking for is this, what I'll call savvy digital marketer. And what we found is, anyone who's been in digital marketing space for a while knows, right? It changes really quickly. I started in my career in the digital space. I ran Vine video campaigns, built a whole product strategy for our agency around Vine videos that ultimately became obsolete. So those savvy digital marketers are used to A/B testing. They're used to piloting new things. They're used to change and lots of change. And that's some of the same things that we're seeing in the AI space. So I've oftentimes found that it's actually our savvy digital internal staff members that are really kind of primed for that pump to be successful in this arena. Some of the characteristics I look for when you're trying to find this unicorn is somebody who has, a self-starter attitude. They have the insatiable curiosity. They're very analytical and strategic from a mindset perspective as it pertains to addressing challenges. So these are the types of people who don't rely on, well, this is how we've always done it, but really believe that there are multiple ways to skin that cat. You also want somebody who's not afraid to fail and has a track record of piloting new things. So maybe they haven't done a ton in AI, but when Waze advertising came out, they were testing that, or they were testing TikTok advertising, right? So they have a proven track record of piloting new technology and new advertising. The other piece of this is really making sure they have the ability to win over others people and have a really good understanding of emotional intelligence and really kind of a sphere of influence. As we look at integrating AI into our organizations, having somebody who can help lead that change management will be key. And last but not least, I often get asked like, okay, if somebody is going to be leading this within our organization, do they have to have a coding background? And the answer is absolutely not. So much of AI is kind of a no-code development structure. So that is definitely not required. I think if they have some experience in API like Zapier or Make.com experience, it's definitely a plus. But you don't necessarily need an engineer or developer leading this charge within your organization. I oftentimes find that those individuals have a more narrow mindset of how the technology can be used. And when it's really exciting is when we're able to expand beyond that. The other part of this is, there is the opportunity to go outside and try to hire, but obviously for a lot of organizations and agencies, especially if you're starting out or on the smaller side, it really makes more sense for you guys to kind of leverage somebody internally, whether it's from a fractional perspective, and provide them the resources for AI training. So the two things that we really kind of push, and everyone actually within our organization that does, who's part of our cross-departmental AI task force, does the Coursera course. It's called AI for Everyone, which is really, really fabulous. And then we are sending people to the Marketing AI Institute. They have a monthly webinar or biweekly webinar, as well as their conference. Their annual conference is really, really great and a great way for them to build a network of resources to reach out to.
So watch in the next couple weeks, we'll have a discount in the newsletter. If you're a member, we'll have a super deep discount. If you are just a newsletter subscriber, we'll still have a great discount from those folks. So if you think you're going to go to this conference, which is in September this year, I think the 10th to the 12th, you'll want to grab the early bird pricing. But it is a mind-blowing, fantastic conference. I agree, Kathleen.
Yeah, and you learn just as much from the amazing speakers. I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk and, or not Elon Musk, sorry, Ethan Malik from an AI perspective, and he is fabulous. And he spoke at the conference last year, but I also learned so much from the other attendees in the session and are still in contact with them. So when we're piloting something new or we're testing things out, we're constantly talking to each other in Slack. And that community, just like the AMI community, is such a huge resource. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to identify someone within your organization, sending them to things like the Digital Summit and to this AI conference are huge assets, and they can bring back so much knowledge for your team to expand on. So when we talk about, okay, what are some of, who we are going to have lead this charge, we want to think about what are some of their responsibilities when you kind of push them into this role, even if it's from a fractional perspective. And some of the things that we've kind of really developed is this idea of making sure that person is helping you develop the AI policies and your roadmap. Drafting communication that can be used in RFP, contracts, and client communications, helping lead and develop the cross-departmental task force and AI governance council, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit, outlining the AI pilot programs and helping you evaluate your AI software, and then keeping you up to date on the latest AI news. I mean, it's seems daunting at times because it is changing so fast. But there are a few great resources. The Marketing AI podcast releases roughly every Tuesday morning. And they have a lot of really great information as it pertains to kind of the hot topics, changes in terms of structures, governance, new tools that are coming out. Ethan Malik has a fabulous LinkedIn, as well as a great kind of blog that he kind of publishes a lot of information on, as well as Bloomberg AI is another resource that we leverage to stay up to date. This is kind of my short list of my top 3. But this is what you would ask this person to be responsible for, is sharing an update maybe once a month with the agency and the organization on what's happening in the landscape. So now that you have an idea of who's going to be leading the charge or what that person might look like, and what are some of the policies and frameworks you want to put in place, we can really focus on how do you stand this up. And so when we've done this, and when I've done this internally, I've really focused on kind of 3 core components. Development of an organizational's AI philosophy and guidelines. And this really ties into outlining the organization's philosophy as it pertains to AI. So are we human-centered? What is our commitment to transparency, both internally and externally? Are we leveraging it for a layer 1? Really how you guys are going to, from a philosophical standpoint as an organization, kind of really go after AI. And then the other piece of this is how you're going to approach your training and security of AI tools and your training within your employees. And that is something we always include in kind of our organization philosophy guidelines. And last but not least is really one of the things that I found, because initially within our AI policy and guidelines, we actually outlined all the different AI tools we're going to use and the use cases for each. And I was updating our AI policy guidelines, felt like every 2 weeks, because of the constant changes. So we actually built an appendix that is referenced in our guidelines that really talks through all the tools that we're leveraging as an organization and the area of focus. So how it can be used, how it can't be used, with examples of those. So for example, we are leveraging Adobe Firefly from a kind of creative perspective. So we allow our creatives to leverage it for mood boards, for inspiration, for internal presentation decks, but they're not allowed to leverage it for major campaign development. They have to kind of disclose those types of things. So we really kind of use that as a way and a guide for our employees to navigate this and understand where they need to be transparent and communicate out about what's going on.
Hey, Kathleen,
Yes.
you've got a switch to existing Chrome profile thing. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's covering up some of your content. If you can just click OK, I think it'll go away.
Okay, if it goes, let's
Oh
see
no,
what
click
happens.
cancel. Try that.
Oh, do you still see it, or did it go?
No, we still see it.
Oh, the pop-up or my deck?
We see your deck, but the pop-up's covering your deck. So click on cancel.
Okay, let's see.
Make it go away if you can.
I did.
Maybe unshare and share again.
Yes, let me do that.
Damn modern technology.
Yes, I would like to say AI and technology are not necessarily. So let me stop share. Let me go back and share. So let's see. Are you now seeing the deck again?
Nope.
Okay, try one more. Can you see it now?
Yep. Not full screen, but we see it.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's the
There we go.
perfect. Great.
Thank, thank
Um,
you.
and I can absolutely share this out as well with Drew, so he can send that out as well. So
Yeah, if
uh,
you, when we're done, send me the deck and then we'll include the video and the deck itself in the replay email.
perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first part obviously is, developing that philosophy and guidelines. And this is very high level, but I can't tell you enough in terms of going through the pain myself, putting the tool set and the idea, this, not that, in terms of how each tool should be used with examples and an appendix is the way to go from a long-term perspective, because you use that philosophy to guide everything that we do. And then there are tangible examples for the team to reference as they're kind of experimenting with the tools. The second piece of this is development of an AI governance council. So this is a group of individuals that typically include your CTO or somebody in your organization that acts as a CTO that maybe handles your security, your IT infrastructure. It may be an outsourced person or a fractional person. But that individual, the leader of AI that we just talked about, as well as somebody from agency ownership. And this group is typically responsible for evaluating the AI software, reviewing use policies, and managing the AI budgets. So think of the AI lead kind of going to this group to ensure that everyone's staying up to date with everything that's going on. We're getting approval and buy-in from executive and what I'll call the security side of things. And making sure that it's all working hand in hand and continuing to monitor and evaluate the AI tools, inclusive of looking at bias that we're seeing in it, as well as accuracy. It's interesting. I have a really great relationship with our CTO at Unlock. And we like to joke that we bicker like an old married couple at times, because obviously somebody who is more on the technology, data security, and infrastructure side is a little bit more risk adverse. And so it is a great balance and perspective to bring to the table to ensure that you're aligning from that perspective. And then the last group that we kind of, as you build this framework, is what we'll call this cross-departmental council. And this is a group of individuals across the departments that can be champions of AI in your organization. What I have found, and when we've set this up internally, it was interesting. I got a lot of questions where people were like, I'm very interested in AI. I want to be a part of it, but I don't have a technical background. And that's okay and actually preferred, because one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that those individuals who have maybe more understanding of the technology and how this all works together are communicating with individuals in your organization who can really highlight some opportunities where AI might be able to reduce some friction points or create optimizations. This group also is responsible for helping participate in pilot programs. So we're doing an AI pilot program within SEO right now in the organization. And so there is a member from the MarTech team who had a passion in AI. And so I said, hey, this is one of our pilot programs coming up. Jamie, would love for you to help be a part of it and be part of the testing alongside me. And what I really have found that this cross-departmental council not only helps us identify great opportunities, bring some fresh perspective and ideas to the table, but also really helps with that change management side of things and ensuring that you're getting buy-in from the entire organization. So now that you kind of have that framework, a big part of that is updating your contracts and your MSAs, if you will. We have started to look at updating it from the standpoint of adding in language around your organization at times that will leverage AI, and what those times will be, what the subject matter experts will be. And I think what's really critical here is, and something we've kind of really positioned ourselves as, and something I really think is true, is AI is creating efficiency for our SMEs. But without our SME talent, you won't be like, the validation of the accuracy of the AI is not as fruitful. So we really want to still ensure that they understand that we're leveraging AI technology, so we're transparent about it, but we're also have these SMEs that can truly validate it, right? So it shows that the importance that your organization still plays in the landscape. We also talk about copyright and clarity and communication of when materials are produced that need to be copyright for major campaigns and things of that nature, that we're disclosing when AI is involved and when it is not. And that'll be part of our process with our clients. So one prime example, right? We have a client who is completely comfortable with us leveraging AI to generate some social media graphics, but obviously when we're doing a huge brand campaign for them, we're not leveraging AI technology. And last but not least, is this idea around data. So one of the things that I think is really key and critical is ensuring that you have language in your contracts that allows you to leverage clients' advertising data in an anonymized fashion to collectively allow you to better support all of your clients. And so one of the things I'll say here, and this is not because Drew told me to say this, but the importance of niching. So when you think about AI in your organization and your agency and the huge opportunity that you have, the more niche that you are, the ability you're able to leverage AI to analyze massive amount of data across multiple clients to identify what I'll call performance improvement, efficiency, insights that you can then go and apply back to your clients. We have found, we are Unlock as a healthcare advertising agency, so we're leaning into that in terms of analyzing the massive amounts of data that we have across a lot of very similar challenges that our clients are facing. And so one of the things that we want to make sure we had was, do we have the ability to leverage that data in an anonymized fashion to help benefit all of our clients as a whole, including them. So just, when you think about your organization and you maybe have several niches, really think about, the value, right? AI and AI technology is accessible for the most part by anyone, right? That is a very accessible tool. It's being democratized. It's so great. But when you think about how do you differentiate yourselves, the real gold mine that you guys have and the opportunity is around the data that you guys are sitting on as an organization. And if you're working within a specific niche for several years, you have a massive amounts of data that you can help leverage to really identify some really amazing insights that can enhance performance and really kind of see you as a more trusted expert. I think Drew gave an example once, right? I'm going to drive 5 minutes for a primary care doctor, but if I need brain surgery, I'm wanting to go to the experts, right? And so that niching and being able to leverage that data is so critical from that perspective. And so now that you kind of have the framework, you have the people, one of the things to really think about is how do you identify and evaluate the AI opportunities that are out there? And they're going to be, and I will tell you this, there are more opportunities than you will have time to really do. And so really figuring out a way to analyze the different opportunities and the potential impacts are going to be key. So when we think about identifying the AI opportunities, I try to think about it in terms of 3 core areas. AI should really help our organization do 3 core things: increase efficiency and speed of our team members. So, right, we're layering, we're upskilling our team. It may help us improve our quality, where there might be, human errors, or be able to analyze more data to improve some of our work products and things of that nature. And then also with this technology, you might be able to expand your offerings, right? So I kind of see these as like the 3 major groups of when we analyze AI. And I often, when I am asked, where should I start of these 3, I think efficiency and speed is the first easiest kind of stepping stone as you go through this process. And so one of the things that we have done, and I definitely recommend doing, is sharing this kind of how do you identify AI opportunities with the larger organization, or at least the cross-departmental team. And so you want to look at, okay, where are areas where I can have more faster or accurate data to help make decisions? So where there is large volumes of data that are available, but we're not even scratching the surface of utilizing all of that. Because AI can help us analyze and extract those meaningful insights and help us aid in that decision-making process. And the key word there is aid, right? We want to ensure that we are continuing to establish the role of the SME in terms of analyzing the outputs, because that is part of the human that makes us valuable as an agency. The other thing I often ask is, okay, what are some of the routine tasks that are repetitive, time-consuming, and don't require like human judgment or like really true thinking? The head of Google, one of the head of Google AI, she used the term thunking, versus thinking. And I really love that in terms of, this idea of, are there things that your team are doing that are more thunking challenges versus actual critical thinking? And so how do we create technology and leverage AI to take some of that thunking off of our plate so that our teams can really, truly critically think? The last thing is scalability challenges. So, there's a huge opportunity when we're going through processes and systems, and Drew talks about this a lot. The systems and processes we have as a 20-person agency oftentimes break when we go to 40, and there's these different break points because of the increased load and demand on your team. So how can AI help kind of lessen some of those, what I'll call break points, as you grow as an agency? And the last piece of this is enhancing research and development. Obviously with the R&D tax credits, and I won't speak to be an expert in any way, shape, or fashion from that perspective, but really leveraging AI to help bring to market new MVP ideas, conduct synthetic focus groups, build really quickly what I'll call kind of MVP draft kind of ideas to really understand, like, is there an opportunity for this? And so those are kind of what I'll call like the four main areas as we kind of go through identifying AI opportunities that really kind of spark some inspiration to really getting the juices flowing to develop a long list of where AI might be valuable. And as you look at that long list, you might say, oh no, so overwhelmed, don't know how we're going to get this all done. And, that's where it comes to how do you evaluate these AI pilot programs? And this is actually a framework that I got from the Marketing AI Institute when I attended their conference. I've manipulated and have kind of advised and kind of revised a bit based on our needs. But really looking at, and we have a master spreadsheet that we reference on a regular basis. We talk through, okay, what is the AI solution category? Is this improving efficiency, increasing revenue, increasing our leads, helping reduce our churn? Like, what is the business challenge that we're solving through this AI pilot that we want to do? We then state, what that AI challenge or opportunity is. So we'll talk about, there's numerous RFPs. If anyone, I hate RFPs more than anything. So this was my first entree into leveraging AI. And, my thought was there's so many RFPs, I don't have time to respond to them all. But, a lot of the RFPs that were coming across our plate are larger in total contract value. And so if I could, and they're pretty repetitive. So if I could leverage AI to help do our first layer one draft response. So instead of it taking us to, let's say, 12 hours to develop a response to an RFP, it takes me 2. I can really help increase our win rate and kind of potentially get us more business. So that would be, increasing revenue. And then you want to look at, okay, so what is the impact if this AI solution is in pilot is kind of implemented? And so the value impact statement for this, we're using the RFP example again, would be, we currently have a win rate of X% for new business. And so if through AI, I were able to complete, let's just say 8 additional RFPs a year, given our win rate, we would anticipate bringing in 1 to 2 new clients, let's say.
Hey, Kathleen, how many of these experiments or pilots do you think an agency of 10 or 20 people can manage at once? Is this a one at a time thing? Is this a everybody on the leadership team gets one? Like, what do you think a best practice is?
I would say 1 to 2 max at a time. And
okay. And they usually should last about...
It depends. And so that's why as you go through, and that's why we have this large master spreadsheet, is because we kind of put them all in here. And then we go through and analyze, okay, which one has, looking at, is it a sweet spot? Is it a quick win? Is it a moonshot? What is the estimated return? So you can analyze and prioritize them in a very analytical fashion.
Okay. And by the way, guys, I know I have the power to just pop in and ask questions, but we will have time for you to ask questions as well. So, all right, keep going, Kathleen. Sorry.
No worries. And so after we kind of say, if you see our sheet, there's probably like 35 of these line items. We're doing like 3 at a time right now. And that's at a 350 person agency.
Okay.
And so, but I use this as a way to prioritize and really analyze the opportunities. And one of them is a moonshot, and 2 of them are quick wins, right? So I kind of really focus on a combination in terms of lift. And this really is a great way as you go, as your AI leader comes to you, you're able to analyze and help answer that question for them in terms of which ones you guys should be prioritizing as an agency. And so when we get to this estimated 1-year value, this could be, okay, so for example, if it's an RFP, it would say we're anticipating 1 additional client, and our AGI per new client is typically, let's just say, $200,000 a year. So that's year 1 value. If it's more about an efficiency, it might say, okay, we typically charge $175 per hour. If I implement this new AI process and tool, I'm going to be able to take let's just, for example, our blog writing from taking us 10 hours to 4 hours. So that's 6 times 175, and we average this many blogs a year. So that would kind of give you that output. So it's either kind of net new revenue or net savings when you think about it from a time perspective. And then you'll want to do that same thought process for year 3. So what that tells us and really kind of helps us is understanding, is this exponentially valuable as time progresses? Or is this something that is going to be kind of create the value in year 1 and it's going to be consistent over the 3 years? So for ease of math, right? If the estimated value in year 1 is 100,000 and over 3 years is 300,000, I say, okay, great. It is kind of like a strong and steady versus, okay, year 1, the estimated value is 50, total year 3 is 350. So there's this idea of scale and kind of exponential value from that perspective. Then we also kind of tie them into solution categories. So quick wins. So when I think of a quick win, it's really more of, for example, Scribe AI is a great tool to help with documentation and process. And so if it's like we're going to leverage an existing tool and it's going to take some time, but it's not anything that we're layering in our own knowledge base from, that's kind of what I'll call a quick win. Sweet spot is where it's taking a little bit of something that's existing and then we're layering in, it's maybe 50-50 or 60-40, and 40 or 30% is our own knowledge base and our own data. Moonshot is something like that I'm working on right now where I'm analyzing, 10 years of paid media data. And trying to leverage AI to identify some opportunities from a keyword mapping perspective. And so that really helps as you kind of prioritize. And if you're taking on more than one in a single period, you might have, like we're having right now, it's, 2 quick wins and a moonshot because of the time commitments. And then the other piece of it, we always add in hours to solve. So what is the hours it would take to implement, just so that we can understand team bandwidth and resourcing. Probability of desired outcomes. And you might say, well, Kathleen, what do you mean? So, a lot of this is, and a lot that we've seen with AI is, there's a lot of value, but it's not a perfect science. So for example, on this RFP solution, I might say, hey, this all sounds really great. And I'm going to put pretty high that probability of us hitting our desired outcomes, but it's about 75%. Because, some RFP changes and things of that nature. The next thing is really around change management impact. A lot of success around AI pilot programs is how much change management is going to occur. So one of the things that we're leveraging is for documentation or for job descriptions within our organization. The change management on that is really low. It's impacting 1 or 2 individuals within the organization. It's not a complete overhaul of their process or their day-to-day. But we always like to keep that in mind because a lot of change can be really overwhelming. And then last but not least, are there any additional costs or, outstanding or exponential expenses, external expenses in terms of software costs, things of that nature. So we kind of include that. And then we also include our notes in terms of, in this example, we need to leverage a minimum of 50 past RFPs to really make sure we have enough data to train the model. But it might be some other things like I've already received requests from our IT and development team that they would love to, they hate doing documentation that is required for projects, and they are very eager for this. So kind of some of those are things that you put in your notes. But when you have all this completed, it really allows you to be successful in terms of analyzing and prioritizing, because when you start to dig into this, it can become very quickly overwhelming because there's going to be so many opportunities at hand. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions on that. And when we talk about kind of collecting all the ideas and really looking at it systematically in terms of how we analyze it, a lot of this is also dealing with change management with your employees. And I found that oftentimes when I've rolled out, some of the programs I rolled out initially, I did not focus as heavily on change management. And those programs oftentimes hit a lot of road bumps that now with some of the processes I've started to implement, we're seeing a lot more success with. And that really ties back to the elephant in the room for a lot of our team members and our employees in the organization. Is this going to take my job? And those who are brave enough will directly ask that question. And we've often said, AI will take away tasks, not jobs. And an individual who understands how to leverage AIs to the best ability will be far more valuable than those who do not. And so from that perspective, those are some of the key things that we're looking at, and kind of moving the needle forward, from that perspective in terms of really understanding that landscape and really helping them understand, how can this help them do what they actually got into the business and love to do. And that's really this idea of, these tasks are going to change, not your entire career path, if you will. So today and I use this example oftentimes, even with our own internal team, right? Content marketing today, we spend so much time on the composition side of things and very little time on ideation, research, editing, and distribution. Where in fact, when we look at AI assisted content strategy, it's not about just producing mass quantity of materials, but help really pushing to really kind of leverage what are the big ideas? What is not being said? What are some unique research standpoints? How do we get this even more exponential kind of exposure from a distribution standpoint? And actually, when you're leveraging AI, I think the role of the editor is 10 times more important than it ever has been in the past, because it's not just about GSP and spelling. It's really structurally about, does this make sense? Am I saying anything of value? Because one of the things that you often will hear is, a fear of AI creating so much that we're going to get lost in a sea of nothingness in terms of nothing of value. And so when I talk to individuals about how AI is going to not take away their jobs, but maybe take away some tasks or reshift their task focus, I use this example oftentimes to really help them understand what that looks like. And when I share this with the content and creative team, which are ones who I've found to be, I think, a little bit more resistant to some of the AI technology, they really love this because they enjoy the ideation and research side of things and how they can get their story out there more than they do the actual physical writing component of it. Which leads us into kind of how you get everyone on board. And I'll start with the fourth one here because it ties into kind of some of my experience when we kind of share that example, which is embracing the friction points and asking individuals to identify their pain points in their day-to-day and how we can leverage AI to help solve them, right? So my development team hates documentation, but they know it's an important part of their job. And so how do we leverage AI so they can do it faster? And so when you focus on how we can reduce those friction points, we really see a huge embrace and excitement around the other pieces. So I know that's the fourth one, but I really wanted to tie that in terms of that has been the best way that I found to get everyone on board is starting with what they dislike doing. But one of the first things that you should do as you kind of start looking to embrace this across your organization in a more formal way is really take inventory. You will be very surprised that many of your employees are already leveraging AI and they may just be disclosing it and they more than likely may not be. And so one of the first things that we did was create an anonymous survey where team members can share, the tools that they're using today, how it is helping them with their job. And it wasn't punitive in nature. And some of them we asked, it was anonymous, but they could disclose their name because we asked if you want to be part of the AI cross-departmental council, because obviously you have some interest in this, let us know and share your email. But this is a great way to take inventory in terms of what is being leveraged and making sure that we can kind of really put some security and parameters in place. So as an organization, we had a lot more efficiency and kind of control over how our teams were leveraging it. The second piece of this is kind of what I'll call a listening tour. A lot of when I first started, somebody said, "Oh, you're going to be doing a road show across all of the departments," and I said, "No, because it's not going to be me pontificating. What I really wanted to do is have, the AI lead, and this is what you should be doing as the AI lead in our organization, spend time with each team or department and shadow several projects in their standing meetings and making sure we don't forget about HR and finance." And so during those, what I'll call listening or sponge show is what I called it internally, is I was able to identify where the pain points were and really talk to them to make them feel a part of the solutions that we're going to be developing and focusing on. So when I was going through development, I was in a standing meeting and somebody was like, "Oh shit, I forgot to do the documentation because we're so focused on getting the website out. I completely forgot about documentation." It kind of sparked something in my brain to follow up with that individual and kind of really understand from him, what are the pain points on documentation? What is actually needed? And is there a solution that can help us solve that? The other thing is, that cross-departmental council, bringing people, and it's interesting in our AI cross-departmental council, we have individuals who, when I asked everyone in our first AI council meeting, I said, please share why you've joined. And I had 3 individuals say, "I think AI is going to be the end of our civilization. I have a lot of concerns around it." And it's interesting because some of those individuals have become the biggest champions. And so the idea of those individuals being able to have their voices heard, be a part of the process, really turns them into cheerleaders that can help this be more both top down and grassroots from that perspective. And so as you think about kind of all these different pieces, I think the most critical piece as any kind of leader in organization is, how do you measure success, right? So how do I know if what we're doing is working, right? If I'm investing and I'm having people spend time on this, how do we know it's actually helping us move the needle? And there are a couple ways of doing this. One is taking a benchmark of your average AGI per FTE. So one of the key kind of pillars of AI, when you look at all the studies that have been done, is the ability for it to improve efficiency within your team. There was a study done by the Boston Consulting Group where they actually saw a 40% lift in knowledge workers. And so when you think about this, get your benchmark for your average AGI per FTE before you start implementing some of this stuff, and then see if you're able to increase that by 10% within year 1. I know AMI's benchmark, and I believe this is right, Drew, is about 275,000 annually per FTE. Is that correct?
175.
175. Okay.
175. Yep.
175. So keep that in mind, but also take your own benchmarks as a kind of a jumping off point. And then the last part of this, right, is, one of the concerns I had when we were leveraging this from a measurement perspective is, well, what if I'm creating more efficiency on the team side, but I'm not getting enough new work to show more AGI per FTE? So then I kind of went through and did some time tracking and benchmarking on common projects that or tasks that we see on a regular basis, and to measure lift after implementation. So for example, with content writing, it typically took us 10 hours and now it's taking us 8 or 6, right? So showing that kind of decrease in terms of time. And so this is another plug, and this did not come from Drew, but the importance of time tracking within your organization, not only for resource management, bandwidth, burnout, all the great things that come along with that, but also as you implement some of these AI technologies, how you can measure success. So with that, I know that's a lot, so I will pause here for questions. And I appreciate everyone bearing with some of the challenge I've had today.
All right, you can just unmute and ask your question, or you can ask it in the chat and I will. Yep, Bill, we started at 9 o'clock Mountain, but you can get the recording. Questions?
So right now, my agency is quite a bit smaller, and we've implemented a lot of this stuff. But from your perspective, coming from a giant agency, what are the top, say, 3 to 5 things that you think really need to be focused on?
In terms of like actual pilot programs?
Yeah.
So I really love leveraging it for documentation and process because as you scale, my agency before I sold was, we tapped out at 70, but spent most of our kind of lifetime around 40 to 50 employees. And I found that like documentation within the organization was so critical for our success in terms of scalability as we grew, because oftentimes, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing this too, it was like slow. Crap, I'm gonna have to hire 3 or 4 people all at once and get them up to speed as quickly as possible, because we didn't want to have a huge lag time between, onboarding and hiring and training people to when the revenue would come in. And sometimes it was kind of hard to manage from that perspective. The other one that is like probably my favorite is that I found to be very valuable is we're leveraging it for some technical SEO, image compression, schema development, as well as kind of internal linking, meta descriptions, title tags, things of that nature, which is really valuable. And then the last one is ChatGPT Premium. We're moving to enterprise as an organization, but ChatGPT Premium has the ability for you guys to create your own GPTs, where you kind of have questions. And so we've leveraged that to actually develop scopes at scale.
Yeah, we're
really
working on some of that too. So this is good. We've got the documentation. We're working on using ChatGPT actively for various, behind the scenes kind of stuff, like content generation. But there's some good ideas here that I hadn't thought of. So thank you.
No, absolutely. We've also used it a little bit for like synthetic focus groups. So we're uploading personas and things of that nature. The other one that my team loves, and this is where you kind of go into that, like, what do you hate about your job conversation with when you're doing your kind of reverse roadshow, where we talk to the team, and the creative team hated doing ad resizes for digital display banners. And so we're now leveraging technology to take that off their plates and to do A/B testing. So it was like change the button color from red to blue or blue to green or things of that nature. So not some things that I would call like critical thinking elements. And it's funny because the creative team was like, oh my God, thank you. Please take that off my plate. And so the adoption rate was really high, and we're seeing a lot of success with that.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ellen's asking, are there some tools that other than ChatGPT that and probably Midjourney that you guys are all using now? So Kathleen, what are you seeing are sort of the top 2 or 3 tools that you think in your conversations with other agency owners and your own experience that kind of everybody is using as their starter set?
Yeah, so we're using quite a few. One of the things that we're focused on is obviously trying to centralize, because of as a larger organization, we're trying to really help kind of management in terms of security and data and compliance from that perspective. So we're leveraging a lot of ChatGPT Enterprise and building our own models alongside of that. I love Scribe AI in terms of helping us develop more what I'll call like documentation and process. The other ones I've used pretty regularly is Silly Tavern, which is not necessarily the most robust or advanced AI technology, but it is allowing us to do synthetic focus groups. It was developed primarily for what do you call it was developed primarily for like role-playing games, so like think Dungeons and Dragons, but we're utilizing it to develop synthetic focus groups. And then Alley AI is another one that I use from a technical SEO standpoint. It has some shortcomings as it pertains to some kind of localization pieces. And then the last one that I really like is Pictory.ai, which does a lot of video editing for us as well. And that's actually, it's funny, that is actually what the second kind of in our webinar series will be focusing on, building your AI toolbox and how do you evaluate AI tools in that landscape. But would love to hear from anybody else on the call on some of the tools that they're using.
So Michael's asking, what tool is your creative team using for the ad banner resizing?
So we were leveraging adcreative.ai initially, but now we've kind of started to build our own tool for
You
that.
joined the AI.
Well, I'm not sure what that was, but say that again, Kathleen. You started with one tool and then used a different one.
We started with adcreative.ai to really kind of understand the landscape and some different tools that we could use. And then we modified from that to kind of our own. We were able to recreate some of that within custom ChatGPT or custom GPTs within our enterprise platform.
Okay. So everybody, the next one of these, just FYI, while we're talking about it, is February 9th at 10 a.m. Mountain time, so noon Eastern. And yes, of course, we'll be sharing the recording of this. It'll probably take us a week or so to get it ready, but then we'll share it through the newsletter, probably in the podcast group, so you'll find it there. What other questions do you have for Kathleen? Anybody else?
Chastain is his name.
But what?
If you will mute yourself, unless you're going to ask a question, go ahead.
I
Malcolm.
just wanted to say I'm sorry. I had the wrong start time. I thought we were starting at 11 Central Time, so I missed the whole bus evidently.
Well, the good thing is we're recording it. We'll share it out. So don't worry about that. But for your calendars, guys, February 9th at 10 a.m. Mountain and March 4th at 11 a.m. Mountain are the next two in the series. And we've got them scheduled out, I think, through June, right?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
All right. Sounds like at some point in time, one of our emails went out at the wrong time. So I will check on that. I apologize. But the good news is you're not going to miss a thing. So we will get this recording out to all of you. Kathleen, why don't you talk about what we're going to talk about in February, and then we'll see if anybody has any final questions.
Yeah, so February will be around building your AI toolbox. So understanding the different AI.
Hang on, guys. Everybody mute yourself, if you will.
What time would we even have it?
I mean,
Everybody mute. Hey, mute yourself, kids.
just pass through
Yeah.
like a quote for.
Hello.
Okay.
I don't know if I can mute everybody at once.
Yes, you can mute everybody at once. There's a button on there.
All right, Kathleen, let's talk about next time.
Yeah, so the next session will be focused on, and I've lost this idea, will be focused on the building your AI toolbox. So understanding the AI landscape. So how you leverage AI technology, the different tools that are out there in terms of no code versus really kind of leveraging existing tools to how to evaluate different AI tools and software. So as you're going through that process, I have a great cheat sheet that we leverage that I leverage personally. And then going through my top 25 tools and kind of sharing some of the things that I've experimented with, which ones are great, what are the pros and cons of each, and the use cases. I know Drew talked about product management, but there's no perfect product management solution. And I think when you look at some of these AI tools, especially where we are in the infancy of the industry, there's going to be a lot of variation as well from that perspective.
All right. Sorry for those of you that we got the time screwed up. Any final questions for Kathleen? Okay. So we'll be back. The video, we probably have the video, I would say within a week, if not sooner. So we'll share it in the newsletter. We'll share it in the podcast group. So you guys will have access to all of it, and we'll have Kathleen's deck. So if you came in late, sorry for the confusion. You won't miss a thing. And again, mark your calendars for February 9th at 10 and March 4th at 11.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you in a few weeks.